Welcome to part 7 of Godlesspanther's Satanic Panic series. I'm going to continue with the backward masking or backmasking in rock music. The idea of playing records backwards in order to get secret messages probably started in 1969 with the rumor that Paul McCartney was dead and replaced with a lookalike. There were some people who actually believed this, and they found all sorts of clues on album covers and songs forward and backward. They found what they were looking for. In 1981, the fundamentalist Christian radio DJ Michael Mills stated on his radio program that the Led Zeppelin song Stairway to Heaven contained satanic messages when played backwards. This is a clip from Michael Shermer demonstrating the Stairway to Heaven myth.
In this case, supposedly these messages are hidden in electronic phenomena. There's a reversespeech.com webpage in which I downloaded this stuff. Here is the forward. This is the most famous one of all of these. Here's the forward version of the very famous song.
If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alone there. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on.
Boy, can you just listen to that all day? All right, here it is backwards, and see if you can hear the hidden messages that are supposedly in there. What'd you get? Satan. Okay, well, at least we got Satan. Now I will prime your auditory part of your brain to tell you what you're supposed to hear, and then hear it again. You can't miss it when I tell you what's there.
Throughout the 1980s, more backwards satanic messages were discovered in various songs by the Eagles, ELO, Styx, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, on and on. Just about every major rock group was accused of subliminally satanizing our good Christian citizens. In many cases, the artists were accused of deliberately planting the messages in the song. This was actually reported on the news by Dan Rather. In several states, legislation was introduced to combat the threat of backmasking. None of the bills passed. Many record burnings were performed by various church groups around the United States as a response to this manufactured mass hysteria. In 1990, Judas Priest was actually taken to court over the suicide and attempted suicide by two teenage boys. They were accused of putting backward messages in one of their songs that affected the boys' behavior to such an extent. The court decision found the group not guilty. A documentary movie has been made about this court case, and it is available online. Belief in satanic messages in rock music is, for the most part, a relic of the Satanic Panic era. As with all the other topics I have discussed, there are a few diehards who still believe this stuff. From internet research, there appears to be a strong correlation between belief in backmasked messages and the belief in the Illuminati. A possible explanation for this may be a specimen of bizarre paranoid fantasy from John Todd, aka Lance Collins, who claimed to be an ex-Illuminati member, and he also spoke out against rock and roll. This is a sample from one of his speeches. It's probably from the late 1970s.
I was the manager of Zodiac Productions, which Zodiac Productions, name's been changed since then. I'm not even sure what to call it now, but it's the largest music conglomerate in the world. It owns RCA Records, Columbia Records, Motown Records, owns almost all the concert booking agencies in the United States. And that's not even the name of the company that owns it. The name of the company that owns it is Brenner Enterprises. Now, one of the closest friends that I got during that time that I obtained was a man named David Crosby. Crosby, Still, Nash and Young. I saw David the day before Christmas last year, talked with him. I got him away from this witch that he had with him. He told her to go shopping. We were in West Hollywood, and I was witnessing around to people I knew. We went off in this store, and we started talking. I said, David, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I said, I already know the answers, but I've been gone for 5 years. I'd like to know if certain things are still the way they were when I left. I said, now I'll have to explain some of this when I'm done, because you're not going to understand it all unless you know something about music. I said, do they still take the master to the temple room? Dave said, yeah. I said, do they still have the coven conjure demons into the master? He said, of course. I said, now, I got to know something. What's the main reason for rock music? He said, come on, Lance, you know what the reason is. I said, please, David, I don't want to guess. Tell me what the main reason is. He says, the same as when you were in, so that we can place spells on people that we couldn't cast spells upon. I'll explain what that means in a minute. I said, okay, one last thing. I've been hearing that you must be an initiated witch now to get a record contract. He said, that's right. He said, many of us that weren't total witches have to be witches now in order to produce music. I said, thank you. The master is a tape about as big as the top of this podium that looks like an overgrown 8-track that the album is cut on and is placed in a machine that produces and presses the records and the 8-tracks and cassettes that you buy. After it's been recorded, it's taken in. This is why a master is cut months in advance before it's released. On the full moon, it's taken in to a temple room about the size of this auditorium that is in every one of the major music companies, behind locked doors up in the executive offices. And it's placed on an altar sitting in the north of the room and a pentagram engraved in the floor. And 13 hand-chosen witches and wizards and a coven come in and conjure a principality or a power up, usually Regia or something like that, and order him to tell the demons under him to follow every record and every tape coming off of that master. As I tell many Christian parents, you can go home and count your kids' records, probably yours too, and count how many demons at least are there. If that's too hard for you to believe, I'm sorry. That's why they do it.
I'm sure there were more than a few members of that audience who were thinking, hey John, you're out to fucking lunch. But it would have probably been dangerous to say it out loud amongst that group. John Todd has quite a history. He was denounced as a fraud by major Christian publications such as Christianity Today and Cornerstone. While in the military, he was diagnosed with having pseudologia fantastica. It's a fancy way of saying the guy was a fucking liar. He was not the president of Zodiac Productions. There was no such company. He did not know David Crosby. He did not work for the music industry at all. The temple room, full moon, demons, blah blah is too stupid to even consider. In 1988, Todd was arrested and convicted for rape in South Carolina. He spent several years in prison and was later transferred to a behavioral treatment center. The only thing that John Todd ever did that was a benefit to society happened on November 10th, 2007. The motherfucker croaked. We can see how people such as John Todd and Bob Larson created a groundwork for the backmasking concept. There are still folks today who are finding satanic messages in popular music. It's called pareidolia, finding patterns in that which there are no specified patterns. This is what people are doing when they find satanic messages in backwards music, the Virgin Mary in a cheese sandwich, and I myself see W.C. Fields in my rug. There are recent advocates of the backmasking concept who have placed videos on YouTube. I have provided links for some of the more interesting examples of this. In the next episodes, I will discuss this further.